What's up, everybody? I'm Michael Allen, and this is the Movie Minute. This episode of the Movie Minute, we are talking about Drew Hancock's new psychological dark comedy thriller, Companion. So, if you're wondering if Companion is worthy of a trip to the theater, and you're looking for a non-spoiler review of the film, let's jump on in. I know that when I first saw the trailer for this film, I was a little bit nervous, only because I'm not necessarily a huge horror fan. And I will say to all those out there that are thinking, oh man, horror is really not my game, this film really isn't a horror. Now, there are horrific moments, but I would not classify it as a horror. Like I said, it's way more of a psychological thriller with a little bit of a dark comedic bent to it. It is fairly gory, and we'll get into that, but from a horror standpoint, it wasn't that scary, more so unsettling. The film centers around Josh and Iris, who are a couple who decide to go on a weekend getaway with friends to some billionaire's lakefront estate and spend the weekend there. Once they get there, you start to realize more is going on here at this estate than meets the eye. It's absolutely a bit of a mystery that you have to put together. The film is truly unique, and it's really important with films like this to kind of go in knowing as little as possible. I think even the trailer gives away too much if you're going in to really enjoy the film. This film came from the same minds and creators, producers that did Barbarian. If you saw Barbarian, you know that that film really kind of came at everything from a different angle. And Companion does that a lot as well, and I really enjoyed it. So let's jump in and talk about what I liked. So first, right off the top, let's talk about Sophie Thatcher, because she really is establishing herself as quite the genre queen. She was in Heretic this past year, which was very fascinating, and Sophie Thatcher gave an incredible performance, and that is the same case here. Every single scene she is in, she absolutely owns. She just captures the essence of her character. She makes you feel uncomfortable, happy. She really puts the audience through a range of emotions while dealing with a lot of complex themes around gender identity and just futuristic ethical issues that the world is going to have to face. And Sophie Thatcher really presents it in a fun and engaging way. Jack Quaid as well gives a really great performance and just tackles a lot of these kind of ethical, moral issues surrounding masculinity that I thought was really, really great, and I thought he brought something really unique to the table. Obviously, Dennis Quaid has passed something down to his son. He has that unique screen presence that just pulls you in every time he's on screen. So, paired between Sophie and Jack, it just was a great feel. The chemistry was really good. That leads into my next thing that I really liked, and that was the direction. Drew Hancock, first-time feature director, been in the business for a long time, done a lot of television, been around for a while, and it's always great to see those people finally get their chance to step into the director's chair and do something fun, and he really did a good job here. I think that the scenes felt very good. They just flowed well. The dialogue was really solid, and he wrote this as well. So he wrote it and directed it, which is tending to be something that's happening more in Hollywood, and I love it. I'm a writer-director myself, and I think that when you really own the script, you're able to bring something really special to the table if you're interested in directing. The pacing, every single scene, the tone and the style of this story are well executed, and that is directing. Another thing I want to call out that really kind of builds upon that level of directing is the editing and the soundtrack. Both are really, really crisp. This movie is cut really well, and I absolutely loved the runtime. It never felt like it was lagging. It really moved super well, and the soundtrack added to that. The soundtrack felt so expertly crafted to each scene. The songs they chose, the moments they chose to really ramp up the sound and the music and the feel of each scene, and I thought that those choices were really well done. There were a few things that really stood out in this film that kind of bothered me, and they really all did land in the story department. Now, overall, the story was good, but there were a lot of things in this film that just didn't make logical sense. Now, we're watching a movie, and there is, like we've talked about before, this suspension of disbelief. Like, you're able to watch a film and realize, oh, this is a movie, but you still accept it as real. And there were a few moments that just were off for me. And I'm not going to share which moments those were because I think it spoils the movie. But there were just some things that were like, oh, that didn't make a lot of sense. And then there was a couple things that happened with the characters where they made decisions that led to certain things happening that felt outside the realm of believability. It just felt like, oh, why did their character do that in that moment? It felt untrue to the character a few times. Not big, but there's just little moments like that that happen, I don't know, maybe half a dozen times in the film where I thought, man, this just doesn't fully mesh from a logistical standpoint. Like, logic and story weren't all coming together, and it kind of made me stumble a bit. I also want to call out that I know this may be a like for a lot of people, but this movie was very gory. It just was, there's some moments where I just squirmed, and it really leaned into what the movie's supposed to be, so I don't fault it for that. It's just not my cup of tea. The gore parts of this film very much lean more towards horror than necessarily thriller, and they have a lot of shock value there, which I understand for the film they were trying to make, just not my cup of tea. From an entertainment standpoint, this film was very entertaining. I was completely in on this story all the way through, and then paired with maybe a little bit of the gory elements that took it down a bit, I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10 for entertainment. From a critic's rating, this film is very well done. I think there's very little that was done poorly, the only thing being a few of those logical suspension of disbelief script moments. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 as well for critics, but this was very solid. And I think that it tackled a lot of things we as a society are going through right now. The themes and the problems and the ethical questions about identity and gender ethics and love and connection are all in here, and Drew really throws a little bit of a wrench in there to kind of mess with your foundation of what you believe there, and I love movies that do that. So for Badge, this one was a fairly easy decision for me. I think this one is very much a couch potato. This one is one I think you can wait for streaming. Now, with that said, general audiences, I think, are going to enjoy this movie. It's just whether you like that psychological thriller with a flair of horror and gore. If that's your thing, totally go to the theater and check this out. Well-made movie, good story. If that's not really something that you enjoy on the big screen, I don't think you need to go see this film. It feels very niche in terms of its audience, which that niche is very much growing. At the end of the day, Companion is one of the first great movies of 2025. It does exactly what it set out to do, with a couple flaws along the way, but overall, love the storytelling, love the twists, go into it blind. Do me a huge favor and jump down in the comments. Tell me what 2025 movie you're most looking forward to. If you like this video, hit that like and subscribe button. Would love to have you on this movie journey with me. If you're looking for non-spoiler reviews from a filmmaker perspective, this is the place to be. And until next time, everybody, peace out.